I never thought a basket could lead me from poverty to a thriving business. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as I clutched that old wicker basket, its fibers frayed from years of misfortune. The colors were dull, just as my life felt at that moment. Tears blurred my vision. Would this basket save me? Or would it be just another reminder of what I lacked? I was staring down the barrel of eviction. The walls of my tiny apartment echoed my despair. 3 days behind on rent. The landlord's warning still rang in my ears, his heavy footsteps haunted me like a ghost. No friends, no family to lean on. Just me, a trembling heart, and a basket that seemed to whisper secrets of the past. Growing up, baskets filled with dreams surrounded me. My mother used to weave them in silence, her fingers dancing deftly, while I wondered what it felt like to hold something beautiful. I could still hear her gentle voice reminding me, everything has a purpose. But what purpose did I have? My fingers brushed the basket's coarse surface, searching for a hint of magic, desperate to turn my life around, and then it happened. The idea sparked bright and electric in my mind. Could I sell these? I felt a rush of warmth spread through me, but the excitement quickly tumbled into doubt. What if my hope was a cruel joke? The world felt enormous, and I was a tiny speck, lost in the chaos that I took the basket and ventured outside. The sun glared down, every person a shadowy figure passing by. I offered my wares on the street corner, heart pounding like a drum. My hopes hung by a thread. Cars rushed past, their engines roaring. I sensed people's glances, their judgment cutting through me. Would they laugh? Would they care? But as the day stretched on, a woman paused, her eyes locking onto mine. There was something in her gaze, a flicker of interest, perhaps sympathy. She hesitated, clutching her purse tight. "What's this?" she asked, genuinely curious. I felt breathless, my heart thumping. This was my moment that I explained everything, the heart of every weave, the story behind the basket. She listened. Her lips curled into a smile. That was the spark I needed. But just as I began to see a glimmer of hope, the universe decided to intervene. The ground trembled beneath my feet. A loud crash echoed from across the street, a sound that shattered the moment. My hands shook as I turned to see smoke rising, people screaming, chaos erupting. In that instant, everything I dared to hope for felt miles away. What would happen next? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The world around me spun into chaos as the sound of shattering glass and panicked voices echoed in the air. My heart was in my throat, thrumming with the violent rhythm of uncertainty. I dropped the basket, and it felt like releasing a part of my soul. As I rushed toward the source of the commotion, I could only think of the woman, the spark of hope she represented, now lost in the tumult of the moment that a huge truck had barreled into a bakery across the street, sending shockwaves through the street. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, cutting through the smoke that billowed ominously. My heart sank. The basket wasn't the only one in peril. People were rushing, shoving each other in a frenzy as they tried to escape or help those trapped inside. That I pushed forward, the chaos melding with my own tumultuous thoughts. My dreams felt as shattered as the glass that coated the sidewalk. Despair clawed at my chest as fear for the stranger I just connected with wrapped around my heart like a vice. What if she was inside? Would I ever get to tell her about my hopes, my dreams, my basket? Just then, I heard a voice above the rest, clear and determined. "Someone, help. We need to get them out." A man in a firefighter's uniform emerged from the thickening smoke, his presence commanding and sturdy. He rushed toward the wreckage, his team trailing behind him, shouting orders. A fierce wave of admiration washed over me. They were doing something. They were fighting against the unforgiving tide of trauma. It was something I longed to do but felt utterly powerless against at in that moment. I found my feet moving without thought. I joined the growing crowd of onlookers, but instead of succumbing to hopelessness, I resolved to help in any way I could, maybe a voice of calm, a shoulder for someone to lean on. Is anyone hurt? Does anyone need water? I shouted, hoping to break through the panic and pull people together. It was a small act, but it felt monumental in the midst of the storm. Someone turned to me, a mother cradling her crying child. Yes, please. My son, he's frightened, she said, her voice trembling. That I rushed over, kneeling beside her, offering my presence. Hey there, I said softly to the little boy, whose wide eyes reflected the chaos around us. You're safe. Look at me. I took a deep breath, recalling my mother's gentle ways. Can you help me count to 10? 1, 2, as we counted, the child gradually calmed, and a flicker of normalcy returned to the moment. In those seconds, I found a sense of purpose blooming within me, a light piercing through the darkness. Yes, the world was chaotic, but perhaps I could still make a small difference, even if it was just for this boy. After what felt like eternity, the firefighters managed to extract several people from the bakery. Cheers erupted from the crowd, but relief was punctuated with tears and worries for those still trapped inside. My own heart raced as I searched the area, praying to see the woman from before. But she was nowhere in sight. A sudden break in the noise drew my attention. A boy, no older than 8, emerged from a nearby alleyway, his eyes wide and frantic. My friends. They're trapped inside. His voice trembled with desperation. I knew what I had to do. Stay with me, I told him, we'll find someone who can help, together. We ran toward the firefighters, a rush of adrenaline propelling us through the thickening smoke and the restless crowd. As we approached, I glimpsed a familiar figure standing off to the side, her hands clasped over her mouth in horror. My breath caught in my throat. There she was, the same woman with the bright eyes. She hadn't left. Relief collided with fear as I realized her urgency was not only for herself but also for someone inside. Are you all right? I gasped, running up to her. Did you see anyone? Are your friends safe? Her eyes brimmed with tears as she nodded, but not in reassurance. My sister, I can't find her. She was just here. In that instant, my heart splintered. I could feel the heaviness of her desperation crushing me. How could I help her in this moment? The new hope I had managed to nurture began to fray at the edges. But I wouldn't abandon her. I couldn't. Let's look together, I insisted, grasping her arm firmly, forging strength from her fear. We can't give up. As we scoured the remnants of the building, the debris around us whispered tales of lives interrupted. Every step deeper into the destruction felt heavier, each moment weighed down by uncertainty and trepidation. The fear of hopelessness loomed like a shadow behind us. Then, amidst the smoke and ashes, a faint sound cut through the chaos. A muffled cry, over there. I shouted breathlessly, pointing toward the remnants of what was once the entrance to the bakery. I started forward, ready to rush in, the adrenaline coursing through my veins, a silent prayer riding on my lips. But before I took a step, I turned back, searching the woman's face, seeing the raw mix of hope and terror. Are you ready? I asked, feeling the weight of our shared moment. Just then, the ground beneath us quaked again, this time sending a shuddering rumble through my bones. I watched as a portion of the wall crumbled, a new wave of uncertainty crashing over us. My heart raced, knowing we were caught in a disaster far beyond our control. I reached for her hand, tightening my grip. We're doing this together. You're not alone. The weight of the unseen turn of fate hung over us like a dark cloud. Would we be able to save her sister? Would we even make it out alive? Each question lingered, unanswered, as we prepared to step forward into the uncertainty that lay ahead. The air was thick with tension and unease as I stood beside her, our hands clasped tightly, the heat and havoc of our surroundings threatening to suffocate us. Her wide eyes, reflecting both fierce determination and piercing fear, locked onto mine, grounding me in this shared moment of anguish. Together, I murmured, a promise forged in the crucible of desperation. The cries of those still trapped echoed like distant sirens, urging us forward. With every step toward the broken entrance, a surge of adrenaline pumped through my veins, pushing aside the fear that clawed at my insides. I felt the world whirl around us but honed in on the muffled sounds beckoning from just beyond the rubble. "Do you hear that?" I whispered, aware of the heartbeats around us, each hum of life a beacon amidst the chaos. She nodded, swallowing hard, her expression a mix of hope and dread. As we neared the precarious opening, the dust and debris fell like a shroud. A sudden whoosh of air sent shards of light filtering through, illuminating our path. The idea of what lay beyond that threshold ignited a flicker of courage within me. With the dust swirling momentarily settled, I took a breath and stepped over the first fallen beam. "Can you make it?" I asked her, glancing back for assurance. She didn't hesitate, she nodded resolutely, her eyes narrowing with determination. It was a decision made silently between us, echoing the unbreakable bond we had forged in this moment of crisis. The space was a mix of shadows and flickering lights, broken pieces of life strewn through a landscape that had once been warm and inviting. "Sister!" she cried, calling out, her voice a melody of desperation amidst the symphony of sorrow. I barely had time to process her plea when I heard a faint, muffled whimper that pierced through the anguish. "Over here!" I yelled, trying to drown out the oppressive noise. We followed the sound, clawing through remnants of what used to be a bakery filled with the romantic scent of fresh bread, now a graveyard of dreams. "Help! Someone! Please!" The voice, weak but clear, beckoned us from deeper inside. "We're coming." The warmth of my resolve flared in contrast to the cold dread wrapping around my heart. There was no turning back now, each step drew us closer as we picked our way through the wreckage, struggling not to lose heart in the face of calamity. As we navigated the precarious terrain, she grabbed my sleeve, a visceral reminder of the humanity we were fighting for, not just for her sister but for everyone trapped under the weight of despair. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Those simple words recharged my resolve, reminding me that there is beauty even in the darkest moments. Finally, we reached a space where the shadows receded momentarily. A small hand, trembling and scared, reached out from beneath a mound of rubble. "I'm here. Help me." A child's voice cried out, fragile yet determined, "Hold on. We're here. Don't be afraid." I called, kneeling to trim the debris obscuring the child's figure. My fingers trembled as I carefully pulled away the broken pieces, my heart racing as I glimpsed the dusty face of a girl, tears glistening in her eyes, another soul fighting against the tides of catastrophe. Then, as if the world had conspired against us, a renewed rumble shook the foundations. The ground felt unsteady, and I caught sight of the walls around us cracking further. "We need to hurry," I urged, the reality of time pressing heavily against us. "We're getting you out," she encouraged, her own fear morphing into a fierce protective instinct. The girl was inching closer now, burrowing from the depths of her confinement. Together, we pulled her from the ruins, her small body shaking but alive. "Thank you," she sobbed, falling into my arms as I cradled her close. Relief flooded through me, but it was short-lived. We still needed to find her sister. Time was slipping away. "That we have to go," I shouted, but as we turned to retrace our steps, the walls moaned ominously, collapsing under the weight of their own heartache. Dust and debris cascaded around us like a violent storm, and panic surged through me as everything I had fought for threatened to crumble. "Stay close," I urged, but unyielding chaos consumed the space, swallowing up our bravery, wrapping us each in uncertainty's grasp, and then silence. A moment of deafening stillness where fear hung like a specter, and I felt the weight of the unknown settle deep in my gut. I couldn't shake the gnawing sensation that something was not right. As I clutched the girl to my chest, my heart raced for her sister, for the woman who now felt so close yet so terrifyingly far away. That I turned to look for her, but the shadows shifted, distorting my view in the dim light. "Where are you?" I shouted, scanning the darkness, feeling as though my chest might implode from the anxiety brimming within. Suddenly, without warning, an echoing voice broke the silence, sending shivers through my spine. "Don't look for her." It boomed, dark and ominous, reverberating through the desolation. The voice sent shockwaves through my carried a weight of warning, shrouded in a sinister promise. My breath caught in my throat. In that instant, I realized the unfolding nightmare was far from over. The walls did not just threaten to fall, they concealed truths that could consume us whole, revealing a darkness that I had never anticipated. The stakes were now higher than ever, and the hope I had begun to nurture threatened to dissolve into despair. "Let's go!" I screamed, clutching the girl tightly, ready to fight against the rising waves of chaos, but my mind was racing with endless questions. Who was behind that voice? What lay beyond the veil of destruction? And most importantly, could we escape what had only just begun to unfold? With the echoes of that ominous voice still reverberating in my ears, dread settled in like a cold fog. I could feel its tendrils creeping into my mind, twisting every thought until all I could focus on was the fear that anchored us in this maelstrom. "Stay close," I urged again, but my voice wavered and felt almost fragile against the looming darkness that we pressed forward through the wreckage, my heart pounding as the girl clung tightly to me, her small body trembling against the pounding of chaos around us. Each step felt like wading through the thickest mud, heavy and suffocating, as if the debris were not just physical but the weight of lives lost, dreams shattered, and futures uncertain. "Hold on, just a little longer," I breathed out, trying to reassure not just the child but myself as well. I needed hope, however fragile, to keep us moving. As we rounded a corner of what used to be the bakery's display case, I spotted a flickering light spilling through a crack in the wall. "There," I whispered, pointing urgently. Maybe it was a way out, a sliver of salvation amidst the wreckage and despair. "Keep up," I called back, feeling the small hand slip from my grip as she hesitated. A chaotic rumble echoed above us, reminding us with a harshness that time was not on our side. "We're going to be okay," I said, and though I fought hard to believe it, my insides twisted with uncertainty. She followed me, her short legs moving swiftly as we approached the gap in the wall. It was tight, crammed with remnants of a once bustling existence, but it offered a semblance of escape. Moments before reaching it, I turned back to call for her sister again, desperation rising like bile in my throat. "Where are you?" But just as I was about to push through the space, I felt her small hand tighten around mine. "Wait. Listen," she said, her voice a hush of urgency. We paused, urging our ears to catch whatever sound she was hearing, a soft rustling, a faint call echoing from beneath the debris. I felt her tremble beside me, an unspoken acknowledgement of their bond weaving its magic through the air. "Can you feel it?" I asked, though deep down, I could feel my own hope waning, straining against the aching weight of reality. "Do you think it's your sister?" She nodded resolutely, determination lighting up her eyes even as they glistened with unshed tears. "We can't leave her." A swell of admiration washed over me at her bravery, even in the face of despair. This little girl, she embodied a strength that belied her age and circumstance. For a moment, I was paralyzed by her unwavering belief. "Okay, let's find her," I whispered, the resolve solidifying within me. We turned back toward the voice, navigating our way through the madness. Every piece of rubble loomed ominously, a reminder of the threads of fate that wrapped us tightly in this moment. "Hello," I called softly, the sound of my voice barely breaking above the whispers of the chaotic darkness. "Can you hear us?" "We're coming." As I listened, my heart pounded in sync with the faint yet urgent response, a soft request for help that seemed laced with both hope and despair. "Please don't leave me." We fought against the debris, clawing and pushing until finally, beneath a broken beam, I glimpsed a familiar figure. Her sister was there, bloodied but alive, a wild desperation lighting her eyes. "Don't move. We'll get you out," I shouted, but just as adrenaline surged through my veins, another tremor shook the ground beneath us, more violent than before. The walls groaned ominously, and I watched as more debris began to slip. "Hurry!" I yelled, frantically urging the girl to help me clear the rubble. In our frantic effort to reach her, time felt distorted, like a cruel mirage teasing us with hope as the world crumbled around us. We leaned against the remnants of their past, digging feverishly, but it was becoming clear this wasn't just an escape, it was a race against time. Hold on. I insisted, sweat dripping from my brow as panic threatened to twist my resolve. With one final push, we managed to free the sister's arm, and she grasped my hand as if it were a lifeline that I can't me leg. She cried, fear coursing through her voice. Before we could react, the ground shook violently once more, and this time, the air filled with a deafening crash. I turned just in time to see the wall shatter, the collapsing weight of despair crashing around us as we scrambled to get free. Run! I shouted, pulling them both close. We were caught in an avalanche of despair, but as I urged them forward, seeds of bravery began to sprout in our spirit, battling against the tide threatening to drag us down. That we reached the gap in the wall, but just as we were squeezing through, the opening started to narrow ominously. I could feel the weight of despair, the shadows wrapping around us, an impending doom closing in. Get through! I shouted, seeing the flicker of light beyond the opening, a sliver of hope, but the space shrank rapidly, threatening to trap us in the weight of destruction. Don't look back. I urged, shoving the little girl through, and just as I was about to follow, a beam fell from above, striking the ground with finality. That I was pinned, and the darkness loomed closer, the scent of dust and panic stinging my nostrils. I wrestled against the weight, feeling the echoes of despair taunt our every move. The last thing I remember, before the chaos engulfed me, was the piercing look of anguish on their faces as they disappeared into the light, leaving me alone with a voice that whispered, "You shouldn't have come here." And then, silence. A deep and suffocating silence that hinted at new horrors, secrets that lay ahead. As the darkness swallowed me whole, my last thought was a desperate plea: would they ever know what became of me? The silence was suffocating, its weight oppressive against my chest. I could hardly breathe beneath the debris. The world had narrowed down to a single point, the pulse of my heart pounding in a relentless rhythm, echoing the dread that encased me. The shadows wrapped tightly around me, threatening to choke the last remnants of hope I had clung to. I couldn't see, couldn't move, all I felt was the crushing mass pinning me down. But amidst the darkness, memory flickered like a candle fighting against the wind. I thought of the girls, small, frightened, yet filled with an indomitable spirit. Would they find a way out? Would they remember me? Did I fail them? A muffled sound broke through the suffocating silence, like a distant call muffled by walls of sorrow. I strained to listen, wondering if perhaps my mind was playing tricks in my dilemma. With a fierce determination, I wiggled, pushed, and twisted my body against the weight pinning me down, desperate to make any sound, any gesture that might call to the faint hope lingering in the air. Help! I croaked, the word barely escaping my lips, but desperation fueled my voice, making it rise above the oppressive silence. I'm here. Please. Moments felt like eternities, and just as I began to give in to despair again, the ground trembled slightly. I closed my eyes as I felt the ghost of a vibration under my left hand. Someone was coming, and the fear of being lost forever morphed into an urgent need to survive, to emerge into the world once more. Can you hear me? A muffled voice ventured, echoing against the rubble. There it was, an unfamiliar yet welcome sound cutting through the heavy atmosphere. Is someone trapped? I'm here. I called, my voice stronger now, fueled by the hope of connection. Please help me. I can't move. The echo of footsteps approached, frantic yet hopeful. I held my breath, wishing more than anything to be pulled from this abyss. The vibrations intensified as whoever it was drew closer. Within moments, a beam of light splintered the darkness. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the glow, and for a brief moment, we shared a timeless connection, a realization that there is life beyond despair. Hang on. I'm going to get you out. The voice was filled with urgency, determination laced with kindness. As hands reached for me, I felt a surge of adrenaline replace the crushing weight of hopelessness. Together, we began to push against the debris, a dance of survival igniting the hope that had threatened to flicker out. With every ounce of strength, we struggled, revealing the path between despair and salvation. "I see you." "Just a little more," they encouraged, and light spilled around me, filling every crevice of dark with warmth as they grunted and pulled. The final push jolted me free, and the beam of light swallowed me whole. I gasped, inhaling deep breaths of clarity, a bittersweet reminder of my ordeal. The world had transformed. The chaos outside was a symphony of shouts, sirens, and crackling energy denoting life still existed beyond the ruin. Nausea gripped me as I tried to stand, unable to shake the dark weight that still clung to me, but my savior steadied me, their hands firm yet gentle. I turned to thank them, only to find unfamiliar faces watching me with a mixture of concern and relief. "You okay?" one asked, their brow furrowed with worry. I need to find the girls," I stammered, realization pouring over me like cold water. The panic that had been eclipsed by despair now surged in my chest, overwhelming and frantic. "They were with me. We have to find them." "Well, find them," the rescuer promised, their eyes determined but sympathetic. "You need to calm down. Just breathe." Between the chaos, small acts of kindness unfolded around us: paramedics tending to the injured, volunteers organizing searches, people linking arms and heartbeats in unison. It felt absurdly hopeful amidst such overwhelming despair, a flicker of warmth amidst the chaos. These strangers, united by purpose, were woven together by shared humanity and loss. Yet, as I pulled my thoughts back to the girls, a gnawing sense of urgency twisted in my gut. "They were right behind me," I insisted, pushing past the fear hitting me in waves. "We can't leave without them, let's go," my rescuer urged, pulling me into the crowd as we searched for the familiar faces that had anchored me through the storm. Every moment stretched painfully, panic clawed at the corners of my mind. What if they were hurt? What if they didn't make it out? My heart ached at the thought of leaving them behind. That we stumbled through the rubble of crumbled buildings, the scent of scorched earth heavy in the air, blending with the distant wails of the lost. Each corner we turned, dread rippled through me. The ache of their absence was fiercer than I had anticipated. I felt like I was searching in a fever dream, each heartbeat pulling me deeper into darkness. Suddenly, we rounded a corner, and there, silhouetted against the dying light, stood a figure, a girl with wild hair and dirt-smeared cheeks, clutching a small bundle. My heart leaped, fueled by the flickering light of recognition, but as I rushed forward, a shiver cascaded down my spine. "Is that?" "No," I gasped, stopping short as I recognized the truth before me. Clinging to the girl's side was a blanket, wrapped tightly around a still form. My breath caught in my throat, an unbearable heaviness crashed over me like a tide, pulling me under. "Help her!" the girl cried, her eyes pleading, the echo of her sister's absence palpable in the air. As I reached out, panic surged in my chest. The unbearable truth settled in: light we had fought so hard to reach, shadowed by loss. And as I knelt beside that small bundle, hope curdled into icy despair. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching, plunging me into a night that felt endless. The only thing louder than the sounds of chaos around us was the thudding of my heart, a resounding call for what I had lost. I held my breath, torn between striving for what remained of the fractured hope and the excruciating desire to believe against all odds that amidst this wreckage, light remained. Just as the darkness threatened to consume me once more, a faint voice shattered the silence that enveloped the scene. It was a child's voice, shaky but determined, calling out from beneath the rubble. "Help! Please! Someone, help us!" The plea sent a jolt of electricity through my veins, forcing me to pull myself together. "I'm here!" I shouted, my voice barely rising above the wreckage, yet fueled by the impulse to save whoever was trapped. "Help is coming!" In the flickering light, I could see the girl with the bundle begin to tremble, her fierce determination battling an overwhelming tide of fear. She clutched the blanket tighter, as if it were all she had left of her world. I ached to comfort her, to promise everything would be all right, but the heavy shadow of uncertainty loomed large. "Stay with me," I called to her, my heart a chaotic drumbeat in my chest. "We'll get through this together. Just hold on." The air felt charged with anxiety as voices rose, people rushed, and the aroma of smoke mingled with the sharp scent of fear.